Hello, and welcome to the paid search webinar for this month. So this month we have Chris Cabanas. You own an agency, Falcon Digital Marketing, based out of Texas. And you have been working in paid search and you do some social ads as well for, I feel like, forever. So like 15 years plus. So
About
very
15, yeah.
15. Okay. No, I kind of guessed based on what I know that you talk about, that you have been doing this a long time. So the first thing I definitely want to do is just note our sponsors, Jumpfly, clever programmatic and ad world experience. We would not be able to do the webinars that we do and put out the content that we do without our sponsors. So definitely a thanks to our sponsors. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to add this to the stage and then I'm going to pop off and then we will come back here for questions. So again,
Okay.
Jumpfly, clever programmatic and ad world experience are our sponsors today.
Okay.
Without further ado.
Yeah, everything looked good. You can see the slide, Google Ads. All right. Let's go ahead and jump in. So we're going to go into a Google Ads account overhaul, what works in 2024 and what doesn't. This comes up a lot with so many changes. Google's moving, I feel like, faster than it ever has. So I just wanted to clarify some older tactics that you should switch off of and some newer ones. So first off, about me, I'm the co-founder of Falcon Digital Marketing, the co-founder of Online Advertising Academy. I've been running ads since 2009, very over analytical, big nerd, love digging into the data and PPC. I keep saying co-founder. I want to make sure to mention my wife is the other co-founder. We started the agency together about seven or 8 years ago, and the Online Advertising Academy. Couldn't do it without her. She is amazing. She doesn't like being front and center, though, that she's behind the scenes, runs everything. So I usually do this type of stuff. So, excuse me, as far as what we're going to go over, sorry, cut off a little bit, but we're going to go over PPC management, kind of what changed and what didn't from the day-to-day and what works, what doesn't. Google suggestions, there's a lot of pop-ups. They've always done this, but they've been a little more aggressive lately with pushing their new technology. So kind of what to use, what makes sense, what to ignore, and then the new account structure, what works. There's been quite a bit that's changed with this. So I wanted to look at that. PPC Manager's checklist for optimizing accounts. Our role as a PPC professional, if you're the one running the account, that's changed a lot. Best bidding strategies, there's a lot more auto bidding and AI. Manual bidding is still there, kind of when to use each one, and the new A/B testing of ads, because people, I feel like we're all still a little bit confused with responsive search ads. We're used to the old A/B testing. So we'll dive into that a little bit too. So as far as the takeaways, this is meant, a lot of it is for professional PPC managers. If it's your job to manage Google Ads. Also go over things for in-house marketing teams. If it's part of your job, you also do the SEO, the newsletter, things like that, or some high-level stuff for marketing directors, VP of marketing. This way, you know enough about Google Ads. You can evaluate your team, you know what's going on in the industry, and it can help you hire an agency or evaluate the agency you have. Maybe it's time for a new one if they're very out of date. And also we'll do some beginner stuff for DIY business owners, beginners. If you're new to PPC, I'll make sure to cover the very basics a little bit as well. So PPC management, what changed and what didn't? As far as changing things, I wanted to take a step back, and the things that really haven't changed, the marketing psychology still applies. The foundations of marketing still apply. This is going back to marketing 101. It's been the same for 50 years or more. When you're planning a marketing campaign or an advertising campaign, you research competitors, your target market, you plan out what's your ad messaging, how is it different, how are you convincing people to buy your product or service, you implement it, whatever that is, from all the way from newspapers to radio to Google Ads to whatever comes in the future, and then you optimize it based on the data you have. that's still the same. It doesn't really matter what the technology is. And remember that going forward into new technology, that will help quite a bit. So being an expert marketer gives you a large advantage to succeed on any platform. No matter what platform or what year it is, the foundations of marketing psychology still apply moving forward. So keep that in mind. Platforms are always changing. Marketing psychology has been the same because humans are the same. Sometimes hacks work, but I mean they're always temporary. Things change. It might work for some people, not for another. So I'd say don't chase down the latest hack that was a LinkedIn post last week or something like that. So we do a lot of training and audits, and of course train our own team. People often ask for a quick fix, and there really isn't one. There's 100-point checklist. There's the foundations to keep in mind. There's so many other things that's the secret to long-term success. It's not just one thing you can do that fixes everything. So you translate the foundations of marketing into technology to stay up to date always. I mean, the marketing funnel. This is Marketing 101. Borrowed this from SEMrush, their blog. Won't go into too much detail, but the top of the funnel, they're discovering the product. There's the desire, they're researching it, evaluation. Maybe they're doing one product or another. They purchase, and so on. So keep the marketing funnel in mind while you're doing all of your marketing. I won't get too much into that. And some psychology. This is an old term, reticular activation. You pay attention to what you're currently wanting to find. So an example of that, you pay close attention to car ads when you're actually shopping for a car. That's that reticular activation. Your brain is filtering it because it's important to you. So remembering all this going into ads, now translating it into something more technical, here's a Google Ads example. In search, you'd be looking at your keywords. What's the intent? What stage of the funnel they at? Is it something specific? Is it a buying term? Is it top of the funnel? Remember that while you're picking keywords and writing ads and doing landing pages. Another example for display ads, this is also in Google Ads. So a prominent placement, this would be placements targeting on a relevant website in front of your target market. They're researching something, it's the right type of people. You can put banner ads on these blogs and on these forums that your target demographic is on. A lot of people forget about display. But it can still be very relevant, especially top of the funnel, even bottom of the funnel, not just remarketing. So custom audience, for example, it's like remarketing, but they haven't been to your site. So you can add auto bidding to people that are in the market for, let's say, accounting software. They've done Google searches, they've been to websites. I don't care what site they're currently on, just follow them, and it'll follow them with the banner ads based on their different searches and websites they've been to and things like that. So that could be top of funnel, middle, or even bottom. So just keep that in mind as you're building out your campaigns. We have example, one of our client, this is a B2B client. The display campaign, a lot of people don't do this for lead generation or B2B. So it has a lot of volume and the CPC is much lower, had a lot of conversions. Conversion rate's a little bit lower because it's so much volume, but the cost per lead was significantly lower. This is a custom audience. We know people are searching the right terms and browsing the right websites. It's so much cheaper because it shows on a lot of random websites, kind of like remarketing. Whereas search, this is the most obvious one. This is people that are searching for exactly what this B2B service is. It's $10 per click, less conversions, higher conversion rate because it's bottom of the funnel. But because of that, the CPC is higher, the cost per lead is higher. And we have this connected to their CRM. We know that these display leads are high quality. So that's just putting in every tool at your disposal, using all the tools in Google to make sure that you're doing top, middle, bottom of funnel in different combinations, not necessarily just search. This also, just to go on kind of side tangent, Facebook, same thing, interest, demographics for marketing. TikTok's very similar, just kind of what target market are you going for? What stage are they in? What's the ad communicating? You translate the foundations of marketing into technology to stay up to date, always. TikTok, kind of a new one. It didn't exist years ago. Another new platform will pop up soon enough. We'll be doing ads in virtual reality before you know it, or hologram ads out in the open, kind of like you see in the movies. Whatever it is, don't get so caught up on the technology. Think back to Marketing 101, marketing funnel, psychology of marketing, and apply that to whatever new technology comes up. So next, switching into the technical stuff in PPC. Again, I'll go high level, very expert level for people that are currently running that, and some beginner stuff if you don't know what any of this means. So first off, campaigns, there are more options. We have Performance Max now, which if you're not familiar, that just combines every single type. It has search, shopping, YouTube, display. It just does all of them in one campaign and rotates it through depending on what's working. This works well for e-commerce, not so much for lead generation. If it makes sense to show everywhere, maybe it's fashion or it's health or supplements, something like that. You don't really care if it's on YouTube or, maybe Gmail, or like demand gen's kind of the same thing. It shows in a lot of different places. They might be doing a search. It might be a banner ad. It might be YouTube. A lot of touch points. It doesn't really matter. That can work. If it's something extremely specific, you'll probably still stick to search. Don't use Performance Max just because it's new and Google says to use it. It's not a good fit. Same thing with demand gen, kind of a similar higher level to that. Search can make a lot more sense for these. So it didn't change with campaigns. While you're building these out, you still think of the marketing funnel, marketing foundations, marketing psychology, all of that while you're building. What should you do? A lot of times it might just be search, or it might be display or search with a little bit of remarketing. You don't necessarily have to go into the newest thing, being demand gen or Performance Max, or other things will come up, but you still have to go back to the basics of marketing. So there's still standard search. People just go on Google, type a keyword, see your ad. It's still there. It works very well. Standard shopping, same thing. They search, but they see a picture and they click on it. Display is a great option. Similar audiences has changed, kind of going into demand gen. It's not quite what it was, but very similar. Same thing with YouTube and video. They have more options, but it's pretty much the same. Dynamic search, kind of pulling keywords from what's on your website. A lot of these options didn't change. We use them. They're very effective. As far as ad groups, what changed? You don't really need to split these nearly as much because keywords match a lot broader. You don't need hundreds of ad groups and hundreds of keywords. What didn't change, still think the foundations of marketing. You still group your keywords by theme, match those to the ads, match ads to the keywords, and match the ads to the landing page. This is going to cover your quality score. Not that it's the most important thing in the campaign, but it's something to keep in mind. It's increase your conversion rates and your profits. Those are the most important things by far. And it helps you set up and optimize the accounts to be highly efficient and profitable. So you still group them together. You just don't need hundreds of ad groups for every possible variation there is. That's changed. For beginners, it's organized. You have the campaign, and then you have ad groups within there, and then you have keywords grouped together. And then each ad can match a keyword to be more relevant and go to a more relevant page. So you'd group, like example, running shoes. All the keywords in that ad group are running shoes. The ad says running shoes, and it goes to the running shoes page. You have another one for hiking boots. All the keywords are grouped together. The ad says hiking boots, and it goes to the hiking boots page. That's what I mean by segmenting it for beginners. So the setup, you want to avoid excessive ad groups. Don't over segment. Other thing, I can't believe I still have to say this, honestly. Avoid single keyword ad groups, also called SCAGs. This is it was outdated about 5 years ago. It's very, very outdated. Please don't use it. Ignore that YouTube video that says SCAGs are the way. Because of how keywords match now, you can't have one keyword. It's going to do plurals. It's going to do misspellings. It's going to do variations, past tense. This is very dead. Please don't use it anymore. Keywords. So what changed? Keywords match to a lot wider range of search terms. Even exact match and phrase match, they're not exact and they're not phrase. They're a new version that shows a lot of variations, a lot of themes. Even phrase match looks kind of like the old broad match. So keep that in mind with your keywords. It's going to match to a lot of other variations. Broad match modifier is actually gone years ago. I just want to mention this. If you see a really old account, or please don't do this anymore if you're managing it. So you want to replace these. These are keywords that have the plus symbols in front of it. It was a different match type. They got rid of those years ago. So if you're taking over an old account or something like that, get rid of the ones with the plus signs in them. But as far as what didn't change, remember the marketing funnel stage they're in, the intent. Why are they searching that keyword? and what should the ads say, and what should the landing page say to make it relevant, to make sure that it's the right thing at the right time so people can make the purchase. Again, just repeating these over and over because these have been the same even with new technology. So another thing that didn't change, people search the same. We have a different YouTube video on our YouTube channel that covers this in depth, but people will search a couple different ways. They use the exact keyword exactly the way it is. So employment law attorney in Houston. There's no question on intent. That's what they want. They also search what they think it's called. Wrongful termination attorney near me. Wrongful termination isn't an area of law. That's employment law. People do this with health. They do this with software. They do this with home services. They call what they think it's called. So you need to keep that in mind, not necessarily the exact technical term, but also what people search. And there's also related searches. If you have a bigger budget or you can test, experiment with this, you can do other things. Again, this is an attorney example. What can I do for a wrongful termination? What are the laws for this or that? They probably need an attorney, but again, you need some budget to test that. Maybe do some auto bidding, different long tail keywords and variations. You don't always do that, but people generally search those 3 ways, or they'll do exactly what it is, AC repair company near me, and a problem solution type of thing, or a symptom. The AC is blowing hot air, or how do I do a treatment for this? Or the dishwasher's leaking. How do I fix it? That's probably appliance repair. We do a lot of home service lead generation. So that's where I'm getting these examples. There's exactly what it is, which is fine. AC repair company near me, or the AC is blowing hot air, or something's leaking. They're searching for, they do a symptom, not necessarily the exact thing that it is. And that has stayed the same, and keep that in mind when you're building out your campaigns. So broad match, it's become broader. So example, sorry, I got cut off a little bit. Running shoes, if you put that in as a broad match, it will match more so the theme, the idea, and it'll get it wrong a lot. It'll do blue running shoes, best shoes for jogging, how to measure shoe size, shoe store near me. To Google, that's running shoes, that's related. Make sure to stay on top of your negatives. Google messes up a lot. It will match to crazy things like, are they making a 3rd Blade Runner movie? It has runner in it. You did running shoes. That's relevant, right? No, Google, that's about a movie. It's a great movie. I don't know if they're making a 3rd one. Go to Reddit. But it's not running shoes. So Google, broad match is very broad match. Keep that in mind when you're testing it. So I already covered that. Typically, you'll test broad match with auto bidding. And if there's a lot of different search terms that would be relevant, that would work, you can test it. A lot of industries, though, you'll still use phrase and exact match. The broad match is too broad. I used attorneys in that example. If it's a smaller budget, you can stick to phrase and exact. If it's software or very specific things, you probably won't do broad match because it casts a very, very wide net. And a lot of industries, that's not going to be relevant. It's going to waste money. So a couple of examples, best broad match keywords to use. Again, we do a lot of home services, plumbing repair service. That will match to leaking faucets and this and that and the other. The intent's still the same. You could run broad match, real estate, supplements, car insurance quote. There's 1,000 different ways to say that. Auto repair shop. Or interestingly enough, this is more advanced and it's experimental. A competitor's name as a broad match will show for them, other competitors, and other related terms. It's interesting to see putting in broad match and see what Google does with it when you drop that in. So these are experimental. If there's a lot of variations, that's great. When there's not a lot of variations, it needs to be very, very specific. Don't use broad match. If you do 2017 Honda Accord tires for sale as a broad match, it's going to match Honda Civic. It's going to match Ford F-150. Where to buy used tires? What's the right tire to buy for this car? It'll go all over the place. These need to be same thing with real estate if it's specific, or a combination for home services, plumber for sewer line repair. That's a very expensive, very specific job. So that would be in a separate ad group with a separate ad that mentions sewer line, phrase or exact. Same thing with shoes or whatever. You need something very specific that has a specific ad that goes to a specific page. You're not going to do the broad match test in that case. Monitoring these and testing them, you can put them in the same ad group as other match types. Sometimes you'll put them in a separate campaign with only broad match so you can keep the budget in check and it doesn't crisscross with stuff that's already working. But you want to monitor your search terms reports very closely. They are experimental. Even with automation, it shows for a lot of garbage that isn't relevant and waste money. Also, dynamic search ads is like broad match. One of our clients, it's B2B lead generation. We have dynamic search and just regular keywords, broad match, phrase, exact. The dynamic, if you have a larger budget, it can catch a lot of long tail keywords, a lot of variations. When there's hundreds of combinations, it can get you more volume. In this case, lower CPC, way more leads, lower CPA, but we're still running search. These are both on automation. We like, okay, dynamic search catch hundreds and hundreds of keyword variations, whereas the more specific one can catch more of the category, the theme, things like that. So dynamic search can be broad match if you have the budget to test that. But I wouldn't test it until you've exhausted phrase and exact and broad. It'll match for a very wide range of keywords. And this campaign has been running for years with hundreds of negative keywords. So I wouldn't just drop that in day one. That's a bad idea. Also, on that note, what didn't change, you need to add negative keywords regularly. With automation, it might eventually stop showing for an irrelevant term, probably after it spent a considerable amount of money on a search term you knew was irrelevant from the beginning. So, adding keywords in advance can be helpful. A lot of people think, well, there's automation, it won't show for irrelevant terms. It will, and it'll spend a lot of money. The automation doesn't know the difference. So adding negatives, that's the same as it's always been. You do weekly, twice a week, whatever. It's part of your checklist. Also, some tips to make it faster. Use a shared negatives list. If you have a lot of different keywords, add negatives in advance. This is by doing negative keyword research. Just do your regular keyword research, but keep a separate tab in Excel or whatever you use for negative keywords. Do a Google search, see what it suggests, put in the ones that don't make any sense, and keep an ongoing, commonly used negative list in your agency or in your company. So you have this really long Excel for free and job postings and salary and TV show, all this stuff that comes up a lot that usually isn't relevant. You could just keep a long list so you have a jump start with all your campaigns. Also, don't add the search terms over and over. I see people do this. They go into search terms, check the box, check, add as negative keyword. You can see here, this is an appliance repair example, Maytag. That's a brand. Just add Maytag once and add it to your list and it'll stop showing. When you check the box, you're going to do this hundreds of times for all eternity. Just add one word, phrase match, negative keywords, so you don't have to check the box forever, and make your negatives a lot faster, and it'll never show for any single possible search term that contains Maytag. Let's say if you don't work on that specific brand, or if it says Dallas, but you're located in Houston, just block the word Dallas and it'll block every single thing that contains Dallas forever. Saves you a lot of time. Also, interesting trick for search terms, you can add a keyword column and it'll show you which keyword triggered the search term. So you can see if you have a broad match or a phrase match, which one is causing problems. You have the search terms, but which keyword triggered that search term. Definitely add that. It's not a default. And for local campaigns, if you don't live in the city, just pull up a map. And let's say you service, for home services or whatever it is, auto repair. If you service a certain area, you can manually add the keywords. Even if you're targeting that radius, still add the keywords for other things. Like you have Houston, but not Jersey Village, not Cloverfield, not Pasadena, or zip codes or whatever. Manually add those as negative keywords. That happens a lot in local search. Ads, we know it switched to responsive search ads, not the extended text ads. That's the old way. For those people that don't know, the RSAs automatically rotate headlines and descriptions to pick the best combinations. So you can't do the A/B testing you used to, but still remember marketing foundations. You're still group keywords by theme, match the keywords to the ads, match the ad to the landing page. All that is still relevant. You have a different technical ad to work with now. Remember, this was the old one. You put in headline 1, it was headline 1. Now you put in a bunch of headlines and it rotates through the order. Same thing with description. There is a pin button. If you want to pin it and say, put this in position 1 always, You don't have to do that. Also, ad strength, don't become obsessed with this. You need to focus on conversions, sales, profit, not getting an ad strength up. It's not that important to hit all the check boxes, kind of like optimization score, other things. I mean, don't ignore it, but don't rewrite your ads to get a perfect score if you write a horrible ad. That doesn't make any sense. As far as ads, the ad copy best practices still apply. You're still going to use keywords in your headlines and descriptions, use a good call to action, review your competitors, see what they're doing, make sure your ad stands out, clearly define how you're different. No matter what ad format Google uses, these still apply. So headlines, you'll usually start with a keyword or a selling point like best running shoes, fast appliance repair, personal injury attorney. You can pin the first headline if you want, or if there's some kind of legal or compliance thing. You don't have to pin them though. Descriptions, it's usually longer selling points and a call to action that don't quite fit in a headline. So licensed, bonded, insured, former prosecutor for attorneys, locally owned and operated, A+ Better Business Bureau. We guarantee our work for 3 years. Something like that, that would go in a description. That still applies, even though they really shook up how ads are written. Display URL, don't forget about this. It's still the same. You can put keywords in there. It doesn't have to be a real URL. And then for testing different ad copy, I mean, this has been the same. You can test question, answer, problem, solution. You've probably seen this. Hurt in a car accident, ABC Law Firm can help. Whatever ad format Google has, this is still a good one to use. Or you can test ad copy that qualifies your company. #1 AC repair in Houston, we beat any price, 30 years of experience. Or you can test ad copy that speaks to the individual, not all about you. We fix your AC fast. Get your quote, free quote now. You deserve a properly cooled home. We can fix your AC today and save you money. That ad is highly charged with you. It's got the emotional thing. You deserve it. You get a free quote. We fix your AC fast. That has urgency. It's hitting so many marketing 101 things, talking to the individual, because if your AC is not working and it's 100 degrees, it's pretty brutal. It becomes an emotional thing. Highlight local when it's relevant. Houston, locally owned and operated, something like that. That can be relevant. The other thing, use the correct terminology. For people that are advertising in multiple countries, there's different nuances. Like travelers in the US call it a vacation, not a holiday. So if you have an international team, you wouldn't say book your holiday today. And in the US, that means book Christmas. That doesn't make a lot of sense. You'd want to use vacation, or if you're advertising in multiple regions, make sure to use the local terms or have it translated if necessary. It'll really stand out in an ad otherwise in a bad way. So ad extensions, they are called assets now. Okay, that's not the only change. It seems like that's all they did. They just changed the name for some reason. Ad extensions are now called ad assets. They have more options. They still have the site links and things like that, but they have the image ones and other things. You still want to fill out all your site links, all your call outs, structured snippets, as many things as you possibly can to take up more space. The other thing, one thing that did change, actually, I do want to point out, most likely you'll turn off auto-created assets for performance and compliance issues. When Google just makes ads and site links, they're usually bad or they don't make sense. So you'll want to turn this off inside your account. I don't have time to cover it, but you can just Google it. It's buried way in the back. Usually you don't want auto-created things. Conversion rate optimization. I mean, what changed is the ad formats, the keywords, they're matching the campaign options, but conversion rate optimization has been the same for years. You still think about the marketing funnels, the psychology, and the flow is the same. You think about your keywords you're picking or your placements that match to the ad, that match to the page, that are all optimized for a good experience and more likely to convert. Also, just quick note, don't forget about Bing ads, now called Microsoft advertising. After you import it from Google, optimize it independently though. Do not do the auto import that just wipes it because it's going to perform differently. But the interface is pretty much the same as Google. They mirror it. There's still search engines, Bing, Yahoo, AOL, DuckDuckGo, all the little guys are over there. It's usually way cheaper. It's very simple to just jump into Microsoft ads if you're already doing Google ads. A lot of your competitors won't be there. So just quick mention for them. Okay, so that was a ton of technical stuff. Sorry for the sprint. We do have a Q&A if I went a little too fast. Google suggestions. Ignore most of it. They've never been all that good, to be blunt. Now I think they're the worst they've ever been. Most of the stuff in the account is junk. Optimization score is somewhat new. It's useless. It goes up if you increase your budget. I don't know what else to say. It's just ignore that. Auto apply recommendations, terrible idea. It's going to add keywords you didn't approve or see, and it's going to write ads or drop in ads and put them live that you didn't approve. Major compliance issues, major performance issues. Google is emailing and calling like crazy. This is an awful, awful idea. That's a strong opinion, but I want to be blunt as a professional. Don't do either one of these. They're terrible. Ad strength, it's not that bad. Don't trade your conversions for an ad strength. Don't write a strange ad to have a higher ad strength. Focus on conversions and profit, the most important thing. Don't obsess over the ad strength. Calls from Google reps. I did want to mention this. There are good Google reps and there's a lot of bad Google reps. Often they'll advise you to enable auto apply recommendations and increase your optimization score and spend more money. The same pop-ups that are in the account, they just call you multiple times per day and email you and email your clients to tell you to do that. They receive bonuses if you apply these things. It doesn't really have anything to do with account performance. They just want their bonus. And just do what's best for your account, not necessarily what a Google rep said. I know there are good Google reps that are very knowledgeable and highly trained with years of experience. There are a lot of bad Google reps that are a third-party call center. They don't even actually work at Google, and they're borderline harassing people with constant calls to auto-apply recommendations, which I mentioned is a terrible idea. Do not do it. So there's good Google reps and there's bad Google reps. Just take it with a grain of salt. A lot of them don't have your best interest in mind. So the new account structure that works, I wanted to go over this. You're going to do a lot less campaigns and ad groups than you used to. You don't have hundreds of ad groups and maybe thousands of keywords with the plural variations and all these other things. The automation does actually do a lot better job than it used to for finding all the different combinations. You no longer need a wide range of keywords. You might do 10 or 20 keywords in an ad group, not 100. You don't need all these different variations. So large e-commerce accounts can run standard search or standard shopping and Performance Max all at once to test. I don't recommend Performance Max for lead gen, a lot of lead quality issues. If you connect it to your CRM to feed back good leads, I mean, maybe, but Performance Max is usually for e-commerce, if that. Typically don't launch a new account with Performance Max only. It needs a lot of performance data to work. So the PPC manager's checklist, as far as the day-to-day for optimizing campaigns, this has changed as far as what to go over is with automation, you're going to constantly check it to make sure it's doing what it should be doing and do changes to keep it on track and guide it. Or if you're doing manual optimization, manual CPC, it's the same as it was. You adjust the bids a little bit, change up your ads, but you have to keep an eye on the automation. Just like with the factory, there's still humans working in it. They don't just turn on the machines and leave for a month. Somebody has to watch all the machines to make sure they're doing what they should be doing. So you're always going to be proactive, not just reactive. With many automation problems, as far as spending money on a bad keyword or an ad that doesn't work, you can easily see them coming way before they waste a bunch of money. So with automation, a lot of times you're just checking it. There's not necessarily an action to do. You just want to make sure it's on track. So we have a very long checklist in Excel. I kind of cut and paste some things in there from our agency that our people do. Some of these are weekly, some of these are 3 times a week. Check the budget pacing. Do you need to adjust the daily spend? Check all the volume on here. Does it look good? Check the ad group performance. Check the search terms. Did you add negatives? Or check the search terms. Are there new keyword ideas, things that are popping up that you could add? Split an ad group, do a new campaign. Check the keyword performance. Do you need to adjust the bids if you're doing manual? Pause some keywords that are just spending too much and not working. Check the ads. We probably have about 50 on here. It's just constantly checking yes or no. A lot of times it's just a check. It's on point. Keywords are good. Everything's working. Conversions are good. Next box. But even with automation, you can check and say, okay, that's way off. I need to dig in. That keyword makes no sense. Need negatives. Need to rewrite this ad. You're constantly checking automation, not necessarily constantly making changes like it used to be. So speaking of that, best bidding strategies for your budget, you'll usually start with manual CPC to gather the data. You may have to stay there longer for small budgets or even forever with a really, really small budget, $500 to $1,000 a month. Google just won't have enough data for automation to kick in and to work. A lot of people do max clicks at the beginning. I don't like maximize clicks because it might lean into something that gets a ton of clicks, but it's kind of a worthless keyword or search term. I like manual, so you can turn the dials and gather that data and then hand it over to automation. Sometimes you can start with automation, but manual CPC is a little bit safer, especially with a brand new account. With automation, you typically need at least 30 conversions within 30 days for auto bidding to work best. And that's for it to start working. That's kind of a minimum. So something to keep in mind. Typically, when you do switch to automation, or if you're starting with automation, you could just do maximize conversions to get a lot more conversions. You can add a target CPA or target ROAS, return on ad spend, later. A lot of times if you do it too soon, it's too restrictive. Say I want a $20 cost per lead or CPA, cost per acquisition, $20, it might be too restrictive. You need to let it gather some conversions, test keywords, test search terms, test all these other things first. Or target ROAS. I want 500% ROAS. If you launch that in the beginning, it may be too aggressive and you just can't get it to work at all. So a lot of times it'll be maximize conversions first. You probably won't like the CPA and the ROAS, but let it gather data, and then you could put a more restrictive number on it from there. So troubleshooting auto bidding, if it always worked perfectly, there wouldn't be a need for professionals. Everyone would just turn on maximize conversions or target ROAS and never look at the account ever again. But we all know that doesn't work. A lot of times when you turn on maximize conversions, it does not maximize conversions, or target CPA or target ROAS is nowhere near the number you set it. So as far as looking at it, this is one of our lead generation clients, is primarily what we do. So you have the target CPA. Here's what we set it for. We've got a 70. It's getting plenty of volume, clicks, click-through rate's good, a lot of conversions, conversion rate's good. Set it to 70, it's getting 60. So it's like, okay, that's good. Impression share, it's not bad. There's a lot more room. Search top impression share, which means top 4 positions, not bad. Absolute top means number 1, 23. Okay, that's not bad. You look at 60 was the target row or target CPA. We're at 48. So there's it's under 55, 45, 70, 44. So there's some wiggle room there, or we could even be more aggressive because it's hitting a lower number that we even targeted. This one we set for 60, it's at 76. By the way, this client, they're $60 is the goal. That's what they're aiming for. So this one's a little bit off. So we might want to check the ads, the keywords. We set it to 60. It's not hitting 60. What's causing that? Do we need to set it higher? It's just not a reasonable number for these keywords. Kind of what's the problem there? So we turn automation up and down and then watch what happens. Most of these are on point, but this would be one to really dig into. Do we need to set it to 80? Do we need to do 90 to give some more data? Kind of what should we do with that one? That's what I mean by adjusting it and then watching the results. If you're not getting enough impressions or clicks at all, you might have too aggressive of a target CPA or a target ROAS. You'd want to increase your CPA, put it a lot higher, or lower your ROAS, maybe 100% ROAS or 50% ROAS. Let it spend the money and gather data, because it can work in 2024. It's not like it was many years ago where automation was pretty terrible and manual was better. Or you might even switch back to maximize conversions. Just let it get some conversions and build up data. When maximize conversions doesn't work, it may not have enough conversions to figure this out at all. Switch back to manual, especially with a new account. Extremely high CPCs, this can happen if you have a $300 CPC and you have a $100 target CPA. That's smart bidding being stupid. So you'd want to add portfolio bidding. This allows you to do a target CPA and a max CPC at the same time. So you can say, I'll bid $20 per click. My target CPA is $100. That gives you enough wiggle room, because sometimes it'll randomly spend $300 or $400 on one click, which doesn't make any sense. You need more conversions. You can increase the target CPA, reduce your ROAS. With portfolio bidding, that would increase your CPC, increase the max CPC, increase your CPA, give it some more wiggle room, test this, give it more budget. So that'd be a way to automate that. As far as the new A/B testing of ads, typically you'll just test one responsive search ads. You don't need to max out all the headlines and descriptions or write a ridiculous ad to hit your ad strength. You can test two, but you need a lot of volume to do this, and they kind of need different themes. Maybe one focused on pricing and discounts, the other one on quality or how quick they are 24/7, something else. If they're exactly the same, that's just too many headlines to rotate through. So this is what I mean by headlines, kind of these ones. Maybe one of them's the most important, the other one can rotate, and it'll put it over here. It'll give you a preview of how it might look, so you can get an idea of what exactly you're writing. And then, of course, you can pin it to a different position if you want. You don't have to. So in conclusion, even with automation and AI and just the new technology, you still need trained experts to frequently optimize and monitor all of your advertising campaigns to keep them profitable. I mean, Google kind of sells it that, the marketing automation, it just works. You turn on your maximize conversions and it will maximize conversion. So you see the pop-ups in your account, it will say, if you switch to target CPA, you'll get more conversions at the target goal. But we've seen a lot of times it won't do that. It won't hit your target CPA. It won't hit your target ROAS. Or if you do maximize conversions, it's not getting a good amount of conversions anyway. And the CPC is extremely high. The CPA is extremely high. It's very confusing the way they word it, in that, if you maximize conversions, it will automatically maximize conversions and just solve all your problems in life. Where a lot of times we see max conversions won't work. And that's what I was really referencing. The marketing foundations and marketing psychology still apply. You want to make sure those are, you think about the marketing funnel when you're thinking about your keywords, whether you're doing broad match or phrase match, or maybe you're doing display, kind of what's the intent of that keyword? Why is someone searching that? And then even with the new responsive search ads, maybe you write 6, 7, 8 headlines. Those headlines need to speak to that keyword. I mean, Google's going to rotate them automatically if you don't pin them, but you'll make sure whatever keyword was searched, ideally it's in the headline, and it still makes sense. Because think about, if you wrote 8 different headlines, all the different combinations that show up, do they still line up? You'll probably do multiple calls per action in case it does stack up, or calls to action in your description to make sure they're not missed entirely, or free shipping, free consultation, something extremely important. You'll make sure that you don't miss that and put in multiple headlines, multiple descriptions. But even with that, you'd want to think about the psychology behind it. Why someone's searching this? Is there urgency behind it? Is there an emotional thing? What type of language do you want to use? Do you want to use the personal language we went over? It's all about you. We have clients that are also counseling services. This is a very personal, very emotional thing. So we keep that in mind, even though Google has changed the ad format with counseling services, for example. That's a very personal thing. So the way you write that ad copy, don't just think about, keywords and quality score and ad strength and have a good CTA and all that stuff. Still think about why somebody's searching that. They're in need. They need your service. Why would they go with your service over somebody else's? And think about that, writing that in the ad. And then when they click on it and go to the landing page, they need a solution. That particular one's a very emotional problem. Whereas, and that's why they're searching. So keep that in mind, even technology changes. Or appliance repair, or other home services, AC repair, that's typically urgent. So you would focus on, maybe it's 24/7, same day service, or you want it at a reasonable rate. You can put a coupon in there, $50 off for new clients or something like that. So all this psychology, you just translate it into the new technology, regardless of, or if you're going into placements or for display campaigns, or if you're doing YouTube, remember that shows right before video, so it grabs people's attention. All that still applies, and I think that's a big takeaway, to keep that in mind while you go into new technology and the new formats of everything. That's really not going to change. So as far as where you can find us, falcondigitalmarketing.com, that's our ad agency for hiring us to manage everything for you. The YouTube channel, also on X, you can follow us there. That's all our education. Online Advertising Academy on YouTube has all our training videos, stuff like this. We post it on YouTube, and you can follow us there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for such a technical talk. Definitely high attendance today. So we've been getting a lot of good feedback. So I'm going to start with a question. So because you run an agency, and I know that you take over a lot of accounts, so a lot of the times it's somebody who's looking for just an expert to manage because of all the technical content that you put out. What do you do if you take over an account and you open up the ad group and you see 1,300 keywords? Because I audited something like that yesterday, and it was performing. So I would love to know your approach when you take over an account as the expert.
So there's a couple of things to look at. You said it's performing.
Correct.
So when you take over an account that's performing, even though the setup, as a professional, you might just want to scream, like there's a horrible setup, you need to slowly transition out of those 1,300 or whatever keywords. Maybe pick the top 10. It's probably not over 1,000 keywords. You're getting a lot of volume. It's probably 10 or 20 are your top performers. You might leave those in there. A lot of times we've seen poorly written ads, but they work extremely well. So it's like, I'm not going to immediately write that. I don't like that ad at all, but it works, and it has 6 months of performance data. So we're going to slowly transition into this is a better ad copy. This makes more sense. We're going to transition those keywords only. A lot of times PPC professionals, even experts, I've made that mistake in the past. Pause and delete everything. Here's the right way to do it. I'm the expert. You're going to have brand new campaigns with zero performance data, keywords, ads, zero, and you have a shock, especially big clients that say, I haven't gotten a phone call in 3 days. It's like, whoa, hold on. We have new campaigns. They need to build up their quality score and this, that, and the other. Don't do that. Build and rebuild inside of what's already working and slowly transition it, because it's a bad setup. It will fade out, and you can start pausing keywords, start rewriting ads, but transition. Don't gut the whole account the first day and spend 2 weeks redoing it. The client will flip out. I have made that mistake in the past.
Well, I think the good part is we definitely agree there. I'm also a slow roll when it comes to taking over accounts that are performing. But I'm going to go with something where you and I sort of vary. And so I highlighted this. So you kind of joked about adding keywords hundreds of times for eternity by clicking the box when you're adding negatives. I'm a box clicker and negative adder. So I'd like you to talk a little bit about that. So from my perspective, the reason I do that is I feel like that's the exact query that someone typed in. And because of the way that the broad and phrase match and exact match, which I use less often, work in search negative lists. And I'm really, really fresh in my mind on this because I'm writing an article about it right now. I tend to feel like because that's the actual thing that somebody typed in, I add the box and then I add it a million times because I get that exact query string. So I would love to hear your approach to that. If you feel like phrase is working for you, not working for you, if you think I'm just wasting my time, because I'm certainly doing that.
I think when you see it repeat over and over, I do to be blunt. I don't know how else to talk. Sorry if that's offensive.
Love it.
It is a waste of time, because that example I gave was Maytag. Let's say that appliance repair company, that's kind of a weird example, but they don't work on Maytags for some reason. And you have Maytag appliance repair, Maytag near me, Maytag not working, Maytag, and you keep checking the box. You will do that forever. And the client might even complain, like, this is our 5th call for Maytag. We do not service those. Or or they keep searching Dallas when it's not in Dallas, it's in Houston. So it's like that phrase exact would say block everything and anything forever that contains the word Maytag. That's a safe way to do it. I didn't have time to do everything. I could have talked for 3 hours. When it's perfectly safe to never show for something that contains Maytag in any way, shape, or form, do phrase match. But the exact one, that is a cautious way to do that, because it might be, a appliance repair for this. It's like, well, do I want to block that word? And you wouldn't block appliance repair. And it's like, can I do a phrase match and save some time? It's like, no, I'm just going to check the box and add it right there. But if you're 100% sure in those examples, then yes, add a one-word phrase. It will save you hundreds of box checking hours.
I'm doing a lot of that.
And that happens a lot. That's common. I see it like the Dallas one. It's like, they're not in Dallas. Add a one-word phrase now. It's like, no, I'm going to check the box forever. It's like, we never want to show for Dallas. No one's going to search, I want appliance repair in Houston, not Dallas. Like, oh, we should have shown for that. Like,
yeah. No, running to my accounts and changing my approach right now. So
when it's safe to do that, I see it like free. That's a common one. Oh, block free. What if they give a free consultation?
True. Very good.
So that's there, or salary. It's like, well, double check that. Or jobs. It's like, are you sure? There's nothing that contains that. Salary or jobs or free. Those are really common ones. It's like, really rack your brain. If you're not 100%, don't do the one-word phrase match. Free is a good example.
Yep, that's a really, because it matters in the context. And so then the other one that I found interesting, your point of view on the maximize clicks. That is another one. I will start out a lot of times maximize clicks and then move to the maximize conversions. And it sounds like you start always. Is it always auto? You have just written off maximize clicks?
Always, yeah. Maximize clicks is going to lean into what gets the most clicks, which I would argue that doesn't really set you up for maximize conversions. It may have been something that, maybe it's a 40% click-through rate, which a lot of times an extremely high click-through rate actually isn't a celebration. That's something to troubleshoot. Or an 80% click-through rate, it's like, that's too good to be true. So when you see those extremely high numbers, I've seen it make mistakes to where it's maybe a competitor and it shows for the top and the CPC goes really high, 70% CTR, and it just bombards it. It's like, that didn't give you good data to switch to max conversions. And if you're not watching that extremely closely, which a lot of PPC people don't do anymore because of automation, that's kind of a flaw, then it's going to lean into something that just got clicks. Whereas manual, you control everything. It's like, okay, I like it. I'm going to turn it over to automation now. But I mean, that's not as strong of opinion. I do feel like people do maximize clicks to maximize conversions and it works. So I won't lean on that too hard. At our agency, we prefer manual. I think Menachem said the same thing when he did his December one. I've seen a lot of his. He's really good. He does manual to automated, but some people do max clicks to max conversions. Not necessarily a bad thing. That's just my opinion on that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think too, like the context. So coming from big agency, big budgets, it's much, much different than dealing with the day-to-day, small and mid-sized business. I think that context is absolutely helpful. So we actually do have a comment coming from LinkedIn from Bree Cortez. So ahead of display being sunset in 2024, do you have any suggestions to replace that ad type and best practices for display gen to replace? And actually, that's a good question, given you did have receipts on a really good display with type targeting.
I mean, you use it until the day it's gone. It'll sunset it for a very, very long time. And then often they'll transition into something where the principle is the same. If you were doing a lot of display, that also YouTube is very similar. The video ads, they're targeting their custom audiences. You can shift it over there. In that screenshot that we actually had the same custom audience running in YouTube. I couldn't do a giant screenshot, and that wasn't the point I was trying to make anyway. You could transition into that. You could test it over in Performance Max. You could roll it into Demand Gen, and you kind of have, okay, this was a particular display thing that's no longer around, kind of like the similar lookalike, that whole mess. It's like maybe years ago you did have that. And it's like you have some data, translate it to whatever new thing they rolled it into. And like display has changed quite a bit, and they're rolling other things. Dynamic search supposedly is going away, but until the second it does, we're going to keep running it, and then take that data and kind of manipulate it into whatever new thing Google rolled out. And you might test it and it doesn't work anymore. So it's like, well, that idea is kind of dead. I need a new one. So that's with display or Performance Max supposedly swallowing up dynamic search. Maybe you kind of take the data you have and then translate it into the newer version. It'd be more likely to work because you kind of have performance history. It's kind of like with Performance Max. If you launch it way later, it will borrow search, display, shopping, remarketing, existing data, and then roll that into like an account that's been around for 3 years. It's not the same thing, but it borrows the data.
Yeah, no, that absolutely makes sense. And I feel like one thing I was thinking about, sort of off of this, but when you were talking about the portfolio bidding strategies, I think that could be similar in how it leverages the data from all those campaigns. I almost feel like that could be an entire presentation and webinar, because people aren't using that as often. And there's definitely some confusion around that also.
Yeah, and that'd be a starting point for Performance Max. Performance Max doesn't focus on that, but you give it signals. It's like, well, let's say I used a custom audience for years and then they get rid of that in display. It's like, well, let me make that a signal to Performance Max, and it's more likely to work, or Demand Gen or whatever else comes out in 6 months. It's kind of a starting point. Or you can, I know this isn't about it, but you can kind of test that over in LinkedIn ads or Facebook ads or TikTok ads. It's just kind of taking an educated guess to jump into new technology.
Yeah. And I do appreciate how you're able to take what's known as successful in Google and move that over to the social platforms. I know we talk a lot about how the two should be working together, and that's a perfect example of such. This will be sort of a silly question, but it was part of the presentation. So Bing ads versus Microsoft advertising. Would you consider saying Bing ads as, egregious as saying AdWords?
I don't think as many people know. And a lot of clients' reports, we didn't change them because it confused the client. So I mean, I think saying Google AdWords is an immediate, like, I have no idea what I'm talking about. But I say Microsoft Bing ads, I say Bing ads, a lot of times I'll say Microsoft ads and there's this blank face. It's like Bing ads. It's like, oh, right. Yeah. It just, that was a quick mention. I actually threw that in this morning. It's an easy win. Import it and you're already doing it. The interface looks the same, even with professionals that say, well, I don't know Bing. It's like, or Microsoft ads. It's like, it looks the same process. Just import it and then optimize it separately. Don't do the auto import with the schedule, but call it whatever. It doesn't really matter.
So what are your thoughts? Because I learned on Twitter today, or X or whatever they call it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. Same confusion. I just don't want to call it X. I learned that you, speaking of auto import, can auto import your negatives from Google to Bing on a schedule. What are your thoughts about that?
That specific one, I think it says advanced settings or something. It drops down. That's fine. The auto schedule, do the entire thing, including pausing a keyword, a new ad. It's performing differently. Don't do that. Auto import negatives. Yeah, that's cool. But check way down and check that one box only. That's fine. We do that. And we have the shared negatives list. We'll export it and import it because like I mentioned in the slide, we keep an ongoing one of hundreds and hundreds. Like if, for a plumber or a car dealership, like here's common negatives to use, kind of share it.
No, that absolutely makes sense. And I cannot believe that this went as fast as it did. I think this was filled with a lot of good technical information. And so just a reminder for everyone that these webinars are sponsored by Jumpfly, Clever Programmatic, and Ad World Experience. So definitely something, like I said, we wouldn't be here without our sponsors. And then I'm just going to put up that last slide right here. So if you want to get in contact with Chris, Falcon Digital Marketing is his agency, and you specialize a lot in lead gen, but you've done every industry that anyone can think about, and you sort of bring all that knowledge to the table. Is there anything else you want to add with the last 30 seconds?
You can also connect with me on LinkedIn. I run my own LinkedIn, so you can talk to me directly, ask questions, reach out, check out our YouTube channel if you want, or just contact the agency directly if you have questions about that. And I thank you so much, the Paid Search Association, for having me on. This was a lot of fun, and I hope I provided a lot of value to everyone.
Yeah, no, it was absolutely awesome.